Welcome, everyone. So nice to see you all here on this beautiful night. Wondering if there's anybody brand new to meditation here? All right. Got it. Okay. So we have some professionals and a veteran. Okay. Okay. So I usually we do the meditation, and I offer a bit of guidance in the beginning, and then silent for the rest of the time. So yeah. So let's get into it, right? All right. So let's get comfortable, but not too comfortable. We don't want to fall asleep. So I like to just adjust a little bit, shake, maybe stretch, feel into the space. Mm, might feel a little awkward, but that's okay. You can cut through it. And a few breaths. Forgot to welcome the Zoomers. Welcome, Zoomers. They're on that camera up there, so if you ever want to wave at them. And breathe. It can be helpful to make it a little bit audible on the exhale in the beginning, just to calm the nervous system and the body into this space. Mm. Yeah, and I've been really inspired by really throughout my practice, but been using a lot this week, just the image of the tree, of, uh, of trees. And the trees are really important in Buddhism. Um, the Buddha was born under a tree. Um, the memory of sitting under a tree is what kind of uh, influenced him to go sit under the Bodhi tree, where he became enlightened. And then he always, a lot of his meditation instructions, the first one is go sit at the base of a tree. Um, and then he died between two trees. And so trees are, in many ways, the great meditators. And so this image of the tree rooted deeply into the earth, reaching out roots in all directions and depths, cutting through stone and dirt and all kinds of different soils. And then above the ground, the tree is aspiring, growing towards the sun out in all directions. Reaching out into space, in contact with all of the elements. And the real strength of the tree comes from not only its roots, but also its ability to sway. And so there's a degree of rigidity, but there's also this ability to move with what's here. And so we don't want to be too rigid or rigid at all. And one of my favorite things about a tree is that it's a home for so many. It provides food and shelter for millions of various organisms. And so as thoughts and sounds and aches and all of these things move through our system, yeah, I like to think of them as having a home, and then we welcome them without being attached. And then this breath is like a breeze blowing through the branches, touching the leaves, open in all directions. Simple, easy. And if you find the mind or the body contracting throughout the duration of this meditation, maybe a stronger breeze is required, and so you might breathe in deeply, exhale long, and that can do a surprising amount of clearing and relaxation in the body and mind. And in here, if you find that you're caught in story or thinking, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not trying to get rid of thoughts, but maybe you can become more complete in your attention, perhaps drawing the energy down towards the roots, feeling the whole body, inner, outer, front, back, sides, connecting to earth. if you'd like to, for this final part of our meditation, just bringing some attention to the space of the heart. And filling this body with kindness. This kindness is a deep acceptance of what's here, this body, this psychology, this conditioning, this history, this story, all the aggregates coming together to form what we like to call me or self. Having kindness, love, if you have the capacity, you can begin to radiate this kindness out in all directions, knowing that each one of us has this separate conditioning, history, body, psychology. And so this kindness for ourselves informs us of what other people go through as well. This interconnection. And so maybe it's just the people in this room or somebody that you know, just offering that understanding. When we have this understanding, becomes more difficult to judge or condemn, which makes more room for metta, kindness, joy. Just coming back to this body, feeling the roots and the earth again, this physical body, this breath. Those of you on Zoom, I'm ringing the bell. Okay, thank you all. So we'll take a little break now. 5 minutes. Okay, so welcome. Um, Before I start, I like to do a chant. So uh, I I'll just chant it. If you know it, you can chant along with me. Um, but it's basically just an homage to the Buddha, and it's traditionally chanted before a Dharma teaching. So it's honoring the Buddha, but also honoring the seed of awareness or the seed of enlightenment within ourselves. So that's what it's meant to awaken. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. All right, the Mountain Stream Choir has been practicing. It's nice. Just kidding. So yeah, so the theme for this month is joy. Um, and so I started in January just writing a little theme for each month. And we're about halfway through the month. And so I thought I'd remind you that this is the month of joy. And it is very joyful outside. You see the life waking up and just waking up in the morning. There's a lot of joy all around us. So it's coming from nature. It's really beautiful. And it brings me a lot of joy just to see all of you here, people gathering, Sangha gathering uh, around the Dharma. It's just such a beautiful, beautiful thing to have a shared intention, um, sort of moving toward this seed within us. I, 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 I see meditation or just showing up as this act of kindness for the self, but also an act of kindness for one another by showing up here. And just the very fact that you're here means there is something there. Because there is a, a kindness that's there for yourself, and it's just really beautiful, and that unites all of us here. And so I find a lot of joy in that. But just thought I'd start with just a hypothetical question. You don't have to answer it out loud. And just what brings you joy? I mean, what brings you joy? Uh, it's an interesting question because joy is an interesting word. Does it mean happiness? Does it mean enthusiasm? Is it short? Is it, long-lived? Is it permanent? Is it innate? Is it temporary? Is it dependent upon conditions? Is it natural? There's all these various things that we can uh, define joy by. But in my mind, uh, joy isn't about pleasure or excitement necessarily. Um, but joy is that quiet, steady, sustained joy that feels rooted in the truth of things. Maybe it's just as I said before, you wake up and you see the early light filtering through the trees. There's this natural connection that touches something within each of us when we see that. Uh, the warmth of, a cup of tea or coffee in the morning, or um, the unspoken understanding between friends, family, or somebody that you really love. Moments that require nothing more to be improved upon. Like you can't improve upon it. Oftentimes in spiritual life and Buddhism is not outside of this. Uh, it's especially true in traditions that emphasize discipline and insight. Joy kind of gets overlooked. It can feel sometimes like a side effect. It's sort of it might happen. It's often the periphery of things. If everything else goes well, if I do my practice correctly, then joy might arise at some point. Um, but the Buddha has this teaching that I found this week that I uh, really opened my eyes a lot. And the Buddha places joy right at the very center of the path, not on the periphery, not on the outside, but it's actually at the very, very center of what we're doing here. It's so funny when I always think, whenever I'm on retreat, I always think of what somebody who didn't know what was going on there would think if they were looking from the outside. And so you just see these people like walking really slowly, like downcast faces, or they're sitting in a room silently, eating slowly, all of these things. It doesn't look very joyful, and maybe people aren't finding that much joy. Um, but it's meant to, all these practices are meant to awaken the joy within us. And uh, uh, so things can look differently on the outside, but I often think of that. And the Buddha in this passage, I think, speaks directly to this this sense of joy that I'm speaking of. It says, when a practitioner has 6 things, they're full of joy and happiness in this very life. And they have laid the groundwork for ending the defilements or ending the obstructions that keep us from joy. He says, what 6? When they enjoy the teaching, when they enjoy the Dharma, when they enjoy meditation, when they enjoy letting go. I also like to think of letting go as opening up or giving up. I'll talk a little bit more about that later. When they enjoy seclusion, when they enjoy kindness, and when they enjoy non-proliferation. So these six things. You don't have to memorize that list. I'll talk about them one by one. So 6 things, 6 joys, and you can tell from this. These aren't like really lofty, mystical attainments. Uh, they're accessible. They're embodied, um, and deeply human, really human. And each one can be a doorway to joy and to freedom. And joy in this vision is not separate from awakening. It's at the very center of it, like I've said. It's not something we postpone until we're more enlightened. Like, I'll get there one day and then I'll be really happy. They're together. It's a companion on the path, a sign that something in us is aligning with the way things are. The way things are is the definition of the Dharma. The Dharma means the way things are, the way things are. So I want to explore these 6 things tonight a bit. And I think this understanding of joy and this practice of joy is really, really important now in these times that we're in, because the society, this society, this culture is not going to give it to us. It's not going to bring that joy. And so in these times of chaos, cultivating this joy, this bhavana, cultivation is bhavana. So we're cultivating, we're practicing with joy, we're practicing, we're developing joy. We create more joy. Yeah, it's really, really important right now that we start to find joy from a deeper place, a deeper understanding of it. Uh, and that's something that nobody can take away from us. Nobody can take away. It's not dependent upon any circumstances. And so the first one is enjoying the teaching. And this doesn't necessarily mean Buddhism's teachings. It means teachings that align with something greater than our personal pursuits or what society puts at the very top of what should be we should take delight in. And so we begin with the delight in the Dhamma and the Dharma. This sweet joy that arises when the teachings touch something that we already know. And I'm sure many of you have had this experience before where you're hearing some truth and it's almost like you already knew it, but you don't know where. It's not a cognitive thing, but it aligns with some truth that you already know that's embodied within you. And that's when I first experienced Buddhism, that's what it was like for me. It was almost like it wasn't new to me. It was, but it was almost like it wasn't because it was speaking directly this like really profound depth of truth that made total sense to me. There are these moments when we hear the Dharma or hear a spiritual teaching and the heart lights up. Again, not because it's new, but because it rings true. It speaks to our experience and it offers a balm for what's ailing us. It's like almost like there's something inside that's whispering, yes, this is what it is. And it's not theoretical, or like I said, it's not cognitive. It's a true lived experience that resonates like a vibration in the body. And that's a really joyful thing. Like a somatic knowing, like the body already knows, like coming into alignment where something just clicks. And so the teachings are kind of like a lamp or a candle flame or a bell, something that doesn't impose itself but calls us back to it. As the Buddha always talked about, the Dharma, the true Dharma, leads inward to the self. It leads inward. It draws us inward. It's not out there. It's not drawing us out there. In fact, in this really beautiful teaching from the Buddha, it's called the Kalama Sutta. The Buddha talks about don't trust what I say. Um, don't trust in scripture. Don't trust in a spiritual teacher. It has to be true here. Like this is where it's true. It's like don't believe me. Like practice it. If it rings true here, then keep going with it. This is the ultimate decider. This heart right here. And that's one of the reasons I really trust the Buddhist teachings because he was always pointing to that. The truth is right here in this heart. The Dhamma leads you back to your own heart. And if it doesn't, then it's not the Dharma. And one of the characteristics for me, when I first heard the Dharma or the truth of spiritual teaching, was that it's possible to live another way. Like we don't have to live by the same standards that our society or our culture lives by. That there is another way, and the Buddha called this living against the, or moving against the stream, moving against the stream. That our suffering or our attempts to create solidity out of that which is not solid, or get the next thing, or do the next thing, or achieve, there's another way. That suffering isn't the final word. That dukkha doesn't have all the control over us. That what we find unsatisfactory isn't even meant to satisfy us because it can't. So satisfaction comes from something much deeper. And when we encounter the Dharma, that's what it touches. That's what it touches. And so the Dharma isn't in books, it's not in talks, it's it's in the breath. It's in the wind and the trees. It's in how grief and love can share the same space in the heart. Mary Oliver once wrote, "Attention is the beginning of devotion." So this attention tending to, this love, is leading us to somewhere much deeper. And so when we give our full attention to the teachings, to the moment, we discover that the ordinary becomes radiant, that the teaching is everywhere. It's waiting to be heard. And if we see life through that filter, then life begins uh, to become the ultimate teacher. Everything is material for awakening. Poison can be turned into medicine. Okay, so enjoying the Dharma, enjoying the teaching. The second one is enjoying stillness. Or you could also call it the joy of meditation. Um, which is another countercultural thing, stillness. We're supposed to keep moving. We're not supposed to take breaks or take naps or take a day off. We got to keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. And if we stop, then we're falling behind, or we won't catch up. Mm. And so meditation isn't like this instant thing. You can't just, go through the drive-through and get your meditation and then you have it. And this is why it's very countercultural because the joy doesn't come quickly and it might come very quietly. Maybe not in the first hour or the first day, probably not. But over time, as we begin to practice and we're consistent and the mind begins to settle, a sort of intimacy appears, a coming home, an intimacy with life. Dogen talked about enlightenment is intimacy with all things. And I felt that in my own practice. It's not something I do. It's just one, sometimes you just feel life as this really intimate, close thing, and all objects are sacred. And so we come into the meditation, we find some stillness, joy arises, and the mind is no longer pulled in all these directions. Yeah. Even if the mind's moving, the mind could be moving all over the place. The mind could be thinking, 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 but the center isn't pulled. Like meditation is not about stopping thinking. Like just give up on that. Like that's not going to happen. You might have moments of stillness and clarity, but it's not about stopping thinking. It's like that's just what the brain does. It thinks. The nose smells, the ears hear, the tongue tastes, the brain thinks. That's what it does. And so thinking isn't the problem. It's the being pulled by the thinking. And you've probably noticed, you probably had moments in your meditation practice where you can just be still, the mind is moving, but there's a stillness that's underneath that's much deeper and uh, much more intimate, much closer to who you are. In fact, it is who you are, the stillness beneath the thinking. So we get in touch with that. And that's where the joy arises. Yeah. And you can almost like sort of almost fall in love with the simplicity, the just sitting or the just breathing, the just being. When you allow that to be enough, just sitting, just breathing, just being, just doing the dishes, just driving the car. You know, there's these things that there's this deep peace that's available in that in that in that simplicity. There's this distinction in the teachings in the suttas, the Buddhist teaching between gladness and joy. So they're kind of different. They're different things, and both of which they arise naturally. And so faith or confidence in the path. So we begin to practice it. There's a little bit of faith there. Like we wouldn't be here if there wasn't a little bit of faith. Like maybe there's something there that I'm curious about. Just takes a little bit of faith, and then as we practice, we start to build some confidence. Oh, this is working. I'm getting to know my mind. I'm finding a little bit of peace, and this thing's happening. And as we build that confidence, the path leads to what's called gladness, or the Pali word is pamoja, pamoja. And then from gladness, this natural process unfolds. From gladness, there's joy, joy which is called piti. Piti arises. And then from joy, tranquility, passaddhi arises. And then from tranquility, happiness arises, sukha. Um, Sukha can also be sweetness, which is how I like that translation better. From tranquility, sweetness arises, is born. Sukha is the opposite of dukkha. Sukha, sweetness, contentment. And from happiness, the mind becomes collected in samadhi, which means concentration. So we think of concentration as this thing we do. We have to like confine ourselves and we're concentrating. But listen to this path. Gladness to joy to tranquility to sweetness and contentment, and then naturally samadhi or concentration arises out of that. It's the opposite. It's an opening rather than a closing. And so the gladness is this, the first breeze of the heart beginning to open. And it's a gentle, happy feeling that we're moving in a good direction. And then joy is more vibrant, sometimes even kind of physically exhilarating. Maybe you've experienced that. Happens on retreat all the time. People get very pity kind of takes over sometimes. This deep uplift, the current begins to carry you. The current of the Dharma begins to carry you towards stillness, towards tranquility, towards contentment, and towards absorption. Zen Master Wangbo reminds us, the mind of the past is ungraspable. The mind of the future is ungraspable. The mind of the present is ungraspable. Very simple Zen. So when we stop grasping, even for a little while, what naturally arises is joy. Not because everything's perfect, but because we've let go of the need for it to be perfect. And we let go of perfection. I had a teacher used to tell me, he said, it's like seeking perfection is slowly destroying the world. Uh, and I really like that. 3, enjoying letting go or letting be, opening up, giving up. I'm not a big fan of the term letting go. It might be, it might be useful. I like letting be, allowing, or opening up. Opening up is really nice for me. As I open my heart, it's kind of the same idea as letting go or letting be. Because there's this natural contraction of the heart. Some of us, have experienced trauma throughout our lives, and so the heart protects itself. And so there's this care that's there that the heart is closed because it's caring for this heart. It closes up. And as we begin to trust in life more, or we're in situations where we're able to calm, then the heart naturally opens up. There's this natural thing that happens. And so we don't have to force it. So this we can't just let go. It's this opening up to life. And so this is also called renunciation, which is everybody's favorite word in in Buddhism, but it's not an austere or a moralistic renunciation, but the joy of putting down what we don't need anymore, what we don't need anymore. And as we begin to deepen into the practice, there's a lot of things that we thought we used to need that we don't really need anymore. We become more simple in our life and things like this. So we can let go of resentment. We can let go of a storyline. We can renounce the story. We can renounce the resentment. We can let go of always needing to be right. That's a big one. How much easier would it be in conversations if we didn't always have to be right? So sometimes we think renunciation is a loss, which it is in a certain respect, but it's actually a lightening of the load. You know, if you're a backpacker, you know, backpacking through trails and it's heavy, 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 it feels so good to let that thing go. Um, when I was a yoga, I used to teach yoga teacher trainings around the world, so I would travel. And I used to travel with a full skeleton. I had this like suitcase for it, which was really interesting going through like X-ray machines with that. But I just remember I always had all this stuff. I had a projector, I had a skeleton, I had like all my books and manuals and stuff. Like going through the air, I'd go in these, go to Asia, and it's like 30 hours, and there was no better feeling than just letting all that stuff sit, like setting it down. It feels so good. There's so many things that we carry that we just don't need. you know? We just don't need those things anymore. We can just set them down. It feels so good. Letting go of trying to be right. Like, I remember when I realized I could do that. It was this, I can't do it all the time, but when I'm able to, it's like, ah, it feels so good. Or letting go of judging, or letting go of all of these burdens that we carry that we're, that we're trying to, we're trying to protect ourselves and things like that. But yeah, lightening the load. The joy in discovering we don't have to carry the self around all the time. Kittisaro tells us the story of Ajahn Chah. I don't know if he was with this group of monks, but Ajahn Chah was walking with this group of monks at the monastery, and there was this giant boulder next to the path. And Ajahn Chah said, "See that boulder right there?" And they're like, "Yeah." It's like, "Do you think it's heavy?" And the monks were like, "Of course, it's this giant boulder." He said, "It's not heavy if you don't try to lift it." There's all these things that we lift that we don't really have to. And so we can begin to see letting go or opening up as an offering. We're offering it. It's a freedom. And when we free ourselves from that, joy floods in. Joy, contentment floods into that space. We let go of those things we don't need anymore. Okay, I thought this was going to be a short talk, but so I'll try to move more quickly. 4, enjoying solitude or seclusion. And so the joy of just being able to step back from the noise, step back from expectations, from the need to perform. And retreat is really good for this because when you're on retreat, you can let go of all the social niceties that we have to do in our day-to-day life. And you let go of having to do anything really because you're being taken care of. People are cooking for you. You might have your yogi job, but somebody's cleaning something for you. So you have this space to just be, and that can be so difficult for people. And they keep trying. And this is why we're so adamant about silence, is because we really want people to be able to see what it's like when you don't have to be burdened by all of those things from our day-to-day life. So all the pressures, and you start to see like how we are always trying to affirm our sense of self with people, those around us, always. Like you smile at somebody, you expect to smile back. And that affirms my sense of self. Okay, I can relax a little bit. When you don't have that, it can bring up all kinds of things, and it creates this space for major letting go. And so this joy that comes from allowing that process to happen. But this doesn't mean you have to go on retreat or have to like isolate in a cabin on a mountain for an extended period of time. None of that. It could be as simple as turning off your phone. It could be that simple. Sitting under a tree, being in nature without anything, walking without talking. And what we're stepping away from is not people, but distraction. It's addiction to the phones, addiction to the news, addiction to all these things. Um, when I was growing up, and I know it started to break down as I got older, but I grew up in the South, and it was pretty normal that everybody just took Sundays off. Like stores were closed, like nothing was open, and it just gave people a day to just like be. So this idea of a Sabbath is really beautiful, and I know people who do this, who take a retreat day every week. Every week they just shut off the world and just they're silent. They turn off their phones. They create a seclusion and solitude. And over the years, it's become this thing that allows them to get through the week. Um, and it's a really beautiful thing, a really beautiful practice. It would be wonderful. I mean, I just think about, if we as a society decided to take one day off, just a Sabbath every week, how much change there would be. in the world. Just that simple thing. And so this joy of meeting ourselves in the quiet and remembering that we're not defined by our busyness. A teacher, I can't remember who said this, but said that stillness is not the absence of noise, it's the presence of everything undisturbed. And in that presence we find joy. Number 5, enjoying kindness. Enjoying kindness. It feels really good to be kind, doesn't it? To open the door for somebody, or even like simply smiling at somebody. Of the feeling of an open heart. Metta feels so good when we can just give it freely, when we're practicing it, and it begins to flow. The Buddha called these boundless qualities. They're boundless. And when we allow them to be boundless, it just becomes a really joyous experience. The Dalai Lama says that my religion is kindness. My religion is kindness. And, he's the head of Tibetan Buddhism. He's at the very top doing all these huge, rituals and festivals and these big practices. But his true religion at the very center of all things is just kindness. Kindness to all beings. This warmth that comes with love. Not clinging, not grasping, but the love that gives without fear. Without fear. A moment of real listening, a moment of just being with, a moment, a word that's spoken gently and kindness, the choice to forgive. Kindness brings us all the way back to what matters. Deepama, who's a much beloved teacher in the insight meditation tradition, echoing the Karaniya Metta Sutta, said, "Love the world as a mother loves her only child." Love the world as a mother loves her only child. When we're kind, something relaxes. When we're not kind, something tenses. When we're kind, something relaxes and opens. So there's less resistance, less fear. And so the joy comes from in loving, not being loved, but loving, knowing that we are love, we come from love. I really love this from Gary Snyder. There's 2 different versions, so I'll read both. Gary Snyder. Shed the guilt. If there's a desire to preserve something, he's speaking about the earth. If there's a desire to preserve something, let it not stem from guilt, fear, or anger. These very forces contribute to the turmoil. They are fear, guilt, anger, and greed. If preservation is your goal, let love guide you. Embrace it. Feel it within your heart, within your bones. It's part of you. Preserve it for the love you have for it, because in the end, true preservation comes from love alone. And this other version says, don't feel guilty about the state of the world. If you start to care for the environment because you feel guilt, your care for it will be unsustainable. If you're going to save it because you love it. And I think we could apply that to a lot of different things in our lives. Rumi says, be like a tree and let the dead leaves drop. Let yourself be silently drawn by the strange pull of what you really love. It will not lead you astray. So kindness pulls us toward that deep love. Not flashy, not dramatic, but steady and real. The love that simply wants others to be well, that wants the world to be well, that wants all beings to be well. And the joy of knowing that we belong to one another. Last one, 6, enjoying simplicity. So And this is referring specifically to, in Buddhism, we call it nipapancha, which is um, non-proliferation. I'll explain that. This is the joy of not spinning in your story, not overthinking, not weaving endless stories about what happened and what might happen. And so papancha is the name for that. Papancha means proliferation. So we proliferate these thoughts. We've all had this experience where we start with one thought, and that leads to another thought, and a story about another thought, and then another thought, and another thought. And we track back, that first thought that we had has nothing to do with this like 10th thought that we had, but they're all connected through this spinning thing, this papancha. And so Buddha's delight in nipapancha, the non-proliferation of recognition of the story. And so being present and just watching the breath or watching the leaves fall, listening to the sound of the bell, just being here with no need to be anywhere else, anyone else, just being here. That simplicity entrains the mind to not have to constantly spin, spin, spin. And the world is always offering this to us. Dogen wrote, those who see worldly life as an obstacle to Dharma see no Dharma in everyday actions. They have not yet discovered that there are no everyday actions outside of Dharma. So everything is the Dharma. All things are the Dharma. Everything is material for awakening. So when we stop complicating things, we see that life is already full. Nothing more is needed. That joy is woven into the very fabric of our presence. There's so much joy in just being present with the breath. So those are the 6 joys: the joy of truth, the joy of stillness, the joy of release, the joy of quiet, the joy of love, the joy of simplicity. And they're not goals, they're not like uh, brownie points or scout badges. They're signs that we're on the path, and they can't be forced. That we're close. They're signs that we're coming closer to the center of the heart. Just like most of the Dharma, it's a natural process that unfolds on its own, and each one supports the next. When we love the Dharma, we're drawn to meditation. When we taste stillness, we're more willing to let go. When we let go, we discover the joy of simplicity, and kindness flows more freely in that. And this is the path of joy. Not naive, not escapist, but grounded in truth, grounded in Dharma. Joy that holds sorrow, that doesn't turn away from suffering, but meets it with compassion and with clarity, kindness. So maybe tonight we can just ask ourselves, how can I be free? What burdens do I carry around that I could just drop, let go of? And what joy is already here that's just waiting to be noticed? And perhaps when we begin again with attention, or perhaps we begin again with attention, beginning again with attention. We always have the opportunity to begin again. Because just as Mary Oliver reminds us, attention is the beginning of devotion. And so I encourage us to live with that kind of devotion and let joy be the guide, be the sign that we follow. Let's pause for a moment. Okay, so I think there's time for one, maybe two questions. Thank you all for your attention. It doesn't have to be a question, it could be a comment or an insight or whatever's arising.
Well, basically, I just wanted to acknowledge that what you spoke in that message about joy and about kind of the theme for the month really touched me because I have felt mm, less than joyful lately and concentrating too much or just coming up within me, when I wake up and during the day, the angst, the concern about what I see that is happening. And really feel for myself and for those around me that it's so important to release that, just think to
Really important. I mean, it really, sucks out there right now and it's terrible, but it doesn't define us, There's something that's deeper. And I find a lot of inspiration in the civil rights movement and um, Holocaust survivors who've written memoirs and things about how even in those situations, the only way they were able to survive was to contact that deeper joy that was within them, this place that nobody could take away from them. And in that recognition, there's a cultivation that happens. And just by recognizing it, and paying attention to it and tending to it, then it begins to grow and grow and grow and grow. And and again, you realize that this cannot be taken away. And that makes us much more effective when we encounter this sucky world, that with these things that are happening, because then we'll have resilience and the fuel that we need. Tuere, when she talked here, she talked about um, the civil rights movement. Before every rally, before every march, they gathered in the churches and they just sang the most joyous songs, uplift, 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 uplift. And that's why their movement was so effective. That's why it sustained. And you look at Gandhi and those movements, prayers and festivals, and that's what sustains people, is encountering something that's beyond, that's not dependent upon circumstances, that comes from, it wells up from within. We're not defined by those things. Even, the horrors of the Holocaust and what some of the people in the civil rights movement went through. It's really inspiring, uh, but also builds faith and confidence that we have that too. That yeah. So thank you for saying that. All right. Well, it's 7:30 now. Sorry, I tend to go long. I'll try to shorten up my talks because I like to discuss things. So let's just pause for a moment. And again, just possibly feeling into this joy of just gathering together. Gathering together with a shared purpose, shared care for ourselves and the world. And again, if we didn't believe that we had those seeds of awakening and healing and connection within us, then we wouldn't be here. They're there. And just tending to that attention is the beginning of the devotion. Yeah, and as we tend to it, it grows and cultivates and grows this bhavana. And so may we recognize this joy within. May all beings recognize this joy within. And all the benefit that we take away from this time together, may it be offered to all beings, because we are all connected infinitely, intimately. May all beings in all directions, without exception, be free from suffering and the conditions of suffering. Thank you all so much for being here. Appreciate you. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.